Thank you, thank you. So indeed, I'm Filip. I work at the Port of Antwerp Authority in Belgium. I also work at the Green Party in Belgium. Just the same job, the deployment of the digital workplace. I don't know if you are familiar with this concept, because I was a bit surprised yesterday when I talked to people about my presentation of today. They just asked me, a digital workplace, what's that? So it's not evident. But if you have lots of time, for instance, you are unemployed, you can just attend conferences on digital workplace the whole year. This is just a selection for 2017. And I must say, this world is quite dominated by Microsoft and its Office. You see that some conferences are in the world of the intranets, and then they see the digital workplace as the next-gen intranet. Other conferences focus more on just productivity in companies, organizations, teams, but then focusing on the new digital tools we have. Next Monday, there is an important digital workplace summit in London by Gartner. They used to call it their portal summit, so that's also interesting, intranets, portals, digital workplaces. But this is interesting what was in their press release concerning this summit, that they do focus with this workplace. Of course, it's a place you work, but it's digital. You focus on the kind of work that they sum up here. It's problem-solving work, it's decision-making, it's pattern recognition. And I just call this is my definition for knowledge work. Knowledge work that we all do day in, day out. We cope with problems, with challenges, we don't know how to solve them. We might have an idea, but we need other people and lots of information that we find and that we produce ourselves to get the things done. If you build a digital workplace where that kind of work is mainly done, then you do need to understand the nature of that work, of knowledge work. And I think it's all about this. You start with undetermined things. You don't know what it is, what happens, but something goes wrong. You get uncertain about things. You have problems, you have questions. That's the unstructured part. And you want to come to solution. That's the structured part. That's reducing uncertainty. We know how it works now, so you create knowledge. And everything in between, well, that's the knowledge work. That's the structuring part. That's the way of reducing uncertainty. And we have lots of processes that can help us with this. For instance, you will know design thinking, having sprints, all kinds of things that indeed in dialogues, in sense-making processes, you add structure to things to better grasp it, to better understand it. But today, when you look at the way how knowledge workers work and how knowledge work is done, then you see lots of information stress. My function title at the Port of Antwerp Authority is Head of Information Management. Well, it certainly is one of our ambitions to reduce information stress with people. And when you think of reasons why indeed we cope with this information stress, I would say the digital workplaces we have to work with today are really characterized by their tool orientation. It's all about tools. And the more the better. Microsoft is very good at this. You all get kinds of tools that they say, if you want to communicate, use that tool. If you want to collaborate, use that tool, etc., etc. But what you do is that you hugely fragment your work process. So you cut it up in tool contexts and silos. And this is certainly not good for your Zen attitude. What you also do through the plentitude of tools is that you also fragment the output. Part of your work process is in your mailbox, other part in shared folders, still another part in a business process management system, and especially mainly, that's very beautiful to see, we all like our desktops that are full of lost files. So, second, it's not only about the characteristics of your digital workplace, but it's also about the mental models that we use to build these digital workplaces. What metaphors do we use to build them with? First of all, a well-known one, the cabinet. We build cabinets, but digital cabinets. Call them folders, and you put files in that. But what we think that we can do is that we can really put everything in its place. That we have a place for everything. Maybe that's okay for the output of knowledge work, the documents, but certainly not for knowledge work itself, because the definition is exactly that we are structuring things, and then we do not want this rigid, predefined structure. We can't live with that. Second metaphor is the desktop. My desktop, my files, my documents. This is a very individual thing. And this is also problematic because today it's about teams. It's not about individuals. So this desktop is really problematic with our digital workplace today. Next, we think in paper. Even we have our digital transformation. No, we still think in paper. We have the documents, the files, even the icons remind us of paper. So, one of the things of consequence that we think in paper is that we see everything as transactional. We pass it through, then you do something, you pass it through. We do not have the imagination that we can have a piece of content, come to it with a bunch of people and work on it, as we do in Confluence, for instance. Then you stop thinking in paper. Think in content. That's the alternative. Yes, we can do better. And it's not difficult. Just unlearn these metaphors. Get rid of it. It's very difficult. You know that. What can we do? How can we be helped? Well, there is one thing that really can help us. That's design. Design things for the new. Design things to get rid of this paper, these cabinets, these desktops. And design, when you talk about it, then, as a matter of fact, a very interesting concept in the design world is affordances. You make things that have characteristics and capabilities that invite people to behave in certain ways. You see a comfortable bed, you want to lay down on it. Not this one. This has not the affordances I talk of. But so you think, you build things that indeed invite people to do things the right way and to prevent doing things the other way. I'm so glad I once saw at a YouTube film from Don Norman, a design guru, the cabinet, bad design. It certainly does not what we long for it to do. Even maybe this is better design. People find their way in their messes, but the problem with this is it only works at individual basis. It does not work at team basis. And this is it. We need to get rid of the image that information is for storage. No, it's not. Information is for action. You need the dynamics in your digital workplace, and your digital workplace needs to be built this way. These are some design principles that we think are important when you design your digital workplace. First of all, this problem-solving process must be one. Don't cut it up. Second, communication, information, collaboration is one. Don't cut it up. It's so abstract and artificial to do it. When you make things, make it with the team by default modus in your head, not as exception, and go one step further, not just the team, but the remote team, because it's a fiction to have all the people involved at this moment in this room to cope with the problem. So by default, make things for remote teams. And last, design for complexity. That's a difficult one. I need at least 1 hour extra for that. But you will see in the end, I hope you will understand it. I think it's a huge mistake today in this VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world, that we want to reduce complexity to simplicity. That's a huge mistake. We need to learn how to cope with complexity. That's a completely different story. You will, or you might better understand it in the end. Magic One, the tool. Marie-Claire, you told it already. So indeed it is Confluence. And we put it at the center of our digital workplace because of this. I believe that Confluence, as a native wiki, but it's so much more, brings in some magical powers that we all know. This is the birth certificate of that thing. Tim Berners-Lee wrote a proposal called Information Management Proposal, late 80s, when he worked at the CERN in Switzerland. And he just had an idea, a proposal to change their way of managing information, get rid of these files and folders, but step into something, it should be something like hyperlinked content. That was his idea. Links, hyperlinks, nodes, contents, and then you will see that it's much easier also for remote teams to collaborate. The knowledge work, the process, the structuring things. So we know a tool that has all these inherent powers to better cope with this volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. And the wiki has this. Confluence has it, but mini. It's not www capitals, but it's in small letters. This is what you do. And this is what you need to get trained in. Work with just content, not documents and files. Start with just content. Hyperlink this. Train yourself in hyperlinking. And do not start with much predefined structure, but learn to structure your content. So the structuring. And you will see that a platform emerges, something very interesting. And then we mainly position Confluence at each stadium of our knowledge work, but of course there is room for other tools too, preferably in the same ecological system. But the more structure you need, well, then that's the moment that, for instance, Jira might pop up. But we do not start with Jira. And then you have the cognitive ergonomics. This is Zen. I go to content, to one place where we meet, and there we work on content instead of thinking in the tools. But also as a team, this is just the same. You all know the concept of a wiki. This is often used as a scheme or mental model for the wiki. Well, this is it. This is wiki group cognitive ergonomics. We feel Zen, certainly. But affordances have the intention to invite people to change behavior, but of course they do not always do this. So you can invite people to do it, they just have to follow. They don't. What I see so many times is that people who start working in this wiki in Confluence, they just copy their old way of working to this new beautiful platform, and they keep on making Word files. Long, long, long pages. They don't cut it up. They don't chunk information. They don't use one hyperlink. And they restrict the page to editing to themselves. Nobody else will do it. This is word thinking. Second, I get tears in my eyes when I meet IT teams, departments. They say, yes, we use Confluence. Yes. All our documentation is in Confluence. And all the rest is in SharePoint. Then you say they only know one use case of the wiki. That's Wikipedia. That's one use case. There are so many other use cases for Confluence. So they think, oh yes, we know it, Wikipedia. We do the same. No, they do not know the inherent strength of Confluence. They don't know it. You have people who overstructure. This does not work at all. And you have people who understructure. This is chaos. You often hear people who start working with the wiki, oh, we like it. 3 months later, we hate it. It's chaotic. And so that is why the next step, you need a process. They don't have a process. They just do things. What's the process? That's something you agree upon how to work with this thing. So design it. That is what we did in the port of Antwerp. We designed our own process on the wiki. And it's called, some call it dynamic case management, others call it adaptive case management, still other intelligent, IBM, intelligent case management. It exists, but normally it is in specialized applications which are very predefined, structured. These are databases. We put it on the wiki. And so you can say in knowledge work, for every new problem, every new challenge, it's like when you have had an accident, you call the insurance broker. What does he do? He opens a case. We open a case on Confluence using templates. And we agree upon this, that everything that will happen concerning the solving of this problem happens in the case and nowhere else. This is Zen. So tasks are in the case, not in Trello. Content is in the case, files are in the case, etc., etc. Reports from business intelligence applications, we put them in the case. That is the context that we build to better understand the problem and the whole process to solve it. And this is an example of a case, so in Confluence, with the identification of the problem. What is the problem? And what do we expect to be the result? We still are not sure, for 90% maybe, but the way to the result is not clear. And then we have the identification of all those involved. Who is the owner of the case? He's responsible that the case gets closed. And then some other information, for instance, other linked cases. And then we start by adding case notes, the first one, the second one, the third one. And this is nothing else than using information to design your problem-solving process. This is what people can learn, and in the end they do. Sorry. I only have some minutes to talk about it, but the whole case is in this book. Second process, you need to learn to work out loud, sorry. You need to learn to work out loud. Yeah, work out is something in the gym. Yeah. Work out loud. What is work out loud? You certainly know it, but you don't do it because it's a bit counterintuitive. Who is doing it? Pilots do it in the cockpit. They need to do it. The call-outs, flaps out, gear down, rotating. Why? This is a kind of distributed knowledge in the cockpit to grow situational awareness. This is quite important when they are flying. Second, Gordon Ramsay gets mad when there is no communication, when there is no feedback. Yes, chef, no, chef, 2 minutes, chef, 5 chicken breasts, chef. He needs it for coordination of the kitchen. Very interesting, the murder investigation team, they build their case on the wall. They put pictures, they reorder it, they have new stuff, new insights, still reorder things, connecting the dots with lines, they start writing on it. They stand in front of the wall and they ask questions aloud, they have hypotheses. This is also working out loud. And this is a picture from during my visit at the Atlassian office in Sydney, but you all know how also these people using all kinds of visual management and talking about it also work out loud. Very important. Writing is of course no detail in this context for 2 reasons. It builds your working memory. It does not evaporate for the people who are not here, the remote teams. But second, writing is also just like having dialogues with people, a process to make sense, to better understand things. This is what Melanie writes about. So you construct a working memory. And this is my magic number 2. You need to design certain processes that you map on these magical tools, and then you will not have magic plus magic is 2, but it's already 100. How can you get this done in your company? This is not easy. It's about changing behavior of people. If you need some laughter, I give you an opportunity. So Dell has this ad saying that they succeeded to implement the Office 365 with Coca-Cola in 1 weekend for 1,100 people. This is so nice. Yeah, there is a difference between pushing the on button, it works, and having people work in a different way. So this is certainly not the way we do it. The implementation process we have experienced also as a kind of magic. How do we do it? It's very simple. First of all, there are teams who really are eager to shift the way they work. They ask for your help, but they just don't see it. You can easily inspire them by showing how other teams who are already on the platform or you yourself are working with the thing. You inspire them and they have ideas of how they could start with their cases of old working, transferring it to your platform. We have a dedicated team, then we design for them the new way of working, this new use case on the platform. We give them a very short training concerning the process and the tool, and they can start. We monitor this. We are at the same platform, so we see how they work with it. We can easily provide feedback and advice so that they do it better, and they start. And 6 months later, we come for the first thorough evaluation. And in this way, this is so interesting, then we go to another team, or the same team having the second use case, the third use case. And for instance, in Antwerp, you already have more than 500 use cases. But you create a resonating network of work practices. And this is so interesting. And this is what it is about. You can call it self-steering teams, or just organizations of the 21st century, but this is designing for complexity. Things happen, the right things happen, maybe not the expected things, but this is about network effects. And network effects, they exist and they emerge because of many feedback loops in your system, because of situational awareness. And this, of course, is magic number 4. I always see it happening on my arm, my hair raising, when in teams we see this emergence. Things that happen look so nice. And this is what you are doing it for. And this is also, I think, I would say the future now. It's the now. So you shouldn't be afraid of all these unstructured things, messiness from time to time. I think somebody forgot to start my clock, I don't know. But I think I'm overdue now. So thank you very much.